In the glittering ballroom of the Grand Plaza Hotel, where crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables laden with champagne and roses, Elena Vaughn stood like a vision from a forgotten fairy tale. The air was thick with the scent of fresh orchids and the soft murmur of laughter, a symphony of clinking glasses and rustling silk gowns. It was the kind of evening where dreams seemed possible, where the weight of the world outside boardrooms, deadlines, and endless emails faded into the background. But for Elena, the CEO of Vaughn Tech Innovations, a company she'd built from a garage startup into a powerhouse of artificial intelligence solutions, such evenings were rare indulgences. She attended weddings not for the romance, but for the networking, the subtle alliances formed over flutes of bubla. Tonight, though, something felt different. A restlessness stirred within her like a long dormant ember flickering to life. Elena sipped her champagne, the bubbles tickling her nose as she observed the room with the precision of a strategist. At 38, she was a forestall, with sharp features softened by waves of auburn hair that cascaded down her back. Her emerald gown, custom designed by a Milanese atelier, accentuated her athletic build, earned from early morning runs along the city skyline. Success had come at a cost, a failed marriage to a man who could unhandle her ambition, a son now in boarding school because her schedule demanded it, and nights spent alone in a penthouse that echoed with silence. She'd learned to armor herself against vulnerability, turning heartbreak into fuel for her empire. But as the bride, her best friend Lila, glided across the dance floor in a cloud of white tulle, Elena felt a pang she couldn't ignore. Lila's joy was genuine, untainted by the cynicism that had crept into Elena's life. What would it be like, she wondered, to let go like that again? Her eyes wandered, scanning the crowd. Couples whispered sweet nothings, elderly relatives dabbed at tears, and children darted between legs with gleeful abandon. Then her gaze snagged on him. Seated at a corner table, partially obscured by a towering floral arrangement, was a man who seemed out of place amid the revelry. His tuxedo was well fitted but slightly askew, as if he'd adjusted it in haste. Dark hair fell over his forehead in a way that suggested he'd raked his fingers through it more than once that evening. He wasn't mingling. Instead, he nursed a glass of whiskey, his eyes locked on the bride with an intensity that bordered on haunting. It wasn't lust. Elena could spot that from across a negotiation table. No, this was something deeper, a quiet sorrow that mirrored the shadows she'd seen in her own reflection on lonely nights. Intrigued, she edged closer, weaving through clusters of guests. A waiter offered her a canape, but she waved it away, her focus unwavering. As she neared, snippets of conversation floated her way. "That's Marcus Reed," an older woman in pearls murmured to her companion. "Single dad, you know. Lost his wife to that awful illness 2 years back. Has a little girl, sweet as pie, but he hasn't been the same since. Comes to these things out of obligation, I suppose." The words landed like stones in Elena's stomach. She knew loss intimately. Her divorce had felt like a death, stripping away the family she'd envisioned. But to lose a spouse, to raise a child alone while the world moved on, that was a different kind of battlefield. Marcus shifted in his seat, his broad shoulders slumping slightly as he set down his glass. His face was handsome in a rugged way-strong jawline, a hint of stubble, and eyes the color of stormy seas. But those eyes, they held stories, layers of pain and resilience that pulled at Elena like a magnetic force. He glanced at his watch, perhaps debating an early exit, and in that moment, she saw herself in him, the isolation, the pretense of being fine when the heart screamed otherwise. Her mind flashed back to her own wedding day, a decade ago, filled with promises that crumbled under the pressure of her rising career. Her ex-husband, charming but insecure, had accused her of loving her work more than him. Maybe he was right. Since then, dates were fleeting, connections superficial, vulnerability. That was a luxury she couldn't afford. Yet here she was, drawn to this stranger. The band transitioned into a slow waltz, the violin strings weaving a melancholic tune that seemed to echo her thoughts. Elena's heart raced as she closed the distance, her heels sinking into the plush carpet. What was she doing? This wasn't like her, impulsive, unguarded, but the champagne had loosened her edges, and the atmosphere, charged with love and new beginnings, whispered possibilities. She stopped beside his table, her shadow falling across him. He didn't look up at first, still transfixed by Lila on the dance floor. Up close, Elena could see the faint lines around his eyes, the weariness of a man juggling parenthood and grief. "Stop looking at the bride," she whispered, leaning in just enough for her words to brush his ear. Her voice was low, laced with a teasing lilt that masked the tremor of nerves. "Look at me." Marcus startled, his head snapping toward her. For a split second, confusion clouded his features, then cleared into surprise. "Excuse me?" he said, his voice deep and gravelly, carrying a hint of an accent perhaps Midwestern, warm like aged bourbon. Elena smiled, sliding into the empty chair beside him without invitation. Boldness was her trademark in business. Why not here? "You heard me." "She's taken, and besides, staring like that might get you mistaken for a heartbroken ex." She tilted her head, studying him. "I'm Elena. And you are ... "Marcus," he replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips despite himself. It transformed his face, softening the edges of sorrow. "Marcus Reed, and for the record, I'm not heartbroken over the bride. Just ... reminiscing, I guess." "Reminiscing?" Elena arched an eyebrow, signaling a passing waiter for another champagne. She handed one to Marcus, their fingers brushing in a spark of electricity. "About what? Weddings past?" He hesitated, swirling the liquid in his glass. "Something like that, my wife. She loved weddings. We'd crash them sometimes, just for the fun of it. Dance like no one was watching." His voice caught, and he cleared his throat. "But that was before." Before, the word hung between them, heavy with unspoken loss. Elena nodded, her own memories surfacing nights when her ex would surprise her with impromptu dances in their kitchen, back when love felt effortless. "I get it," she said softly. "Life has a way of rewriting our stories, doesn't it? One day you're planning forever, the next you're picking up the pieces." Marcus met her eyes, really looked at her for the first time. There was a vulnerability there, raw and unguarded, that made her breath hitch. "You sound like you've been through it too." "Divorce," she admitted, surprised at her own candor. "Not the same as losing someone, but it leaves scars all the same. My son Alex, he's 10 now, lives with it every day. Boarding school helps, but I miss him like crazy. A single-parent club, huh?" Marcus chuckled, though it lacked mirth. "My daughter Lily, she's 6, asks about her mom every night. I tell her stories, but it's never enough." The conversation flowed then, tentative at first, like testing ice on a frozen lake. Elena shared anecdotes from her high-stakes world, the thrill of closing a deal that saved her company from bankruptcy, the loneliness of celebrating victories alone. Marcus opened up about his life as a graphic designer, freelancing from home to be there for Lily, the way grief had dulled his creativity until recently. "I've started sketching again," he said, his eyes lighting up. "Mostly for her fairy tales with happy endings." Elena felt a warmth spread through her, unrelated to the champagne. Here was a man who understood the delicate balance of strength and fragility. As the band played on, she glanced at the dance floor. Reminiscing is fine, but living in the moment, that's where the magic happens. She stood, extending her hand. "Dance with me?" Marcus blinked, caught off guard. "I haven't danced since ... Well, it's been a while." "All the more reason," she insisted, her smile encouraging. He took her hand, his palm warm and calloused, and they moved to the floor. The crowd parted slightly, whispers following them. Who was this mystery woman with the brooding widower? But Elena didn't care. As Marcus's arm encircled her waist, pulling her close, time seemed to slow. The music enveloped them, a gentle rhythm that synced with their heartbeats. "You're good at this," he murmured, his breath stirring her hair. "Years of corporate galas," she replied, but her voice was breathless. Being this close, she could smell his cologne woodsy understated. His hand on her back was firm yet gentle, guiding her with an ease that spoke of past joys. They swayed, bodies aligning in a natural harmony, and for the first time in years, Elena let her guard down. Flashes of what-ifs danced in her mind. Coffee dates, shared laughs over parenting mishaps, stolen kisses under city lights. But as the song crested, Marcus's gaze drifted back to the bride for a fleeting second. Elena felt a twinge of jealousy, irrational and sharp. What's the real story with her? she asked lightly, masking her curiosity. He sighed, spinning her gently. Lila? She's an old friend. Reminds me of what I had or thought I had, but that's the past. His eyes returned to hers, intense. Tonight, though, this feels like a new chapter. Elena's heart soared, but doubt crept in. Was this just wedding magic, fleeting as the night? She pushed it aside, focusing on the now, the way his laugh rumbled when she teased him about his rumpled tie, the shared glances that spoke volumes. As the dance ended, applause rippling around them, they lingered, hands still clasped. Join me for a walk? Marcus suggested, nodding toward the French doors leading to the garden. The garden was a haven of twinkling lights and blooming jasmine, the cool night air a contrast to the ballroom's warmth. They strolled along gravel paths, sharing more stories. Elena spoke of her rise in tech, the glass ceilings she'd shattered, the sacrifices along the way. I built an empire, she said, but sometimes I wonder if it's enough. Marcus stopped under a gazebo, turning to face her. Enough for what? Happiness? That's not in boardrooms, Elena. It's in moments like this. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was intimate, sending shivers down her spine. In that instant, vulnerability bloomed. Elena leaned in, her lips brushing his in a tentative kiss. It was soft at first, exploratory, then deepened with the pent-up emotion of two souls starved for connection. Fireworks exploded in her mind, not from the wedding display outside, but from within. When they pulled apart, breathless, Marcus smiled. I didn't expect this tonight. Neither did I, she whispered, her fingers tracing his jaw. But as stars wheeled overhead, a shadow crossed her thoughts. What secrets lay beneath his surface? And hers? Little did she know, this single glance would unravel threads from their pasts, weaving a tapestry of love, betrayal, and redemption that neither could have foreseen. As they returned to the ballroom, hand in hand, the night felt alive with promise. Elena glanced back at the bride, now cutting the cake with her groom, and felt a surge of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, her fairy tale wasn't over after all. The evening wore on, with toasts and laughter filling the air. Elena and Marcus found a quiet corner, sharing dessert-rich chocolate cake that melted on the tongue. Tell me about Lily, Elena prompted, genuinely curious. His face softened. She's my world. Loves drawing unicorns and asking a million questions. Daddy, why do stars twinkle? Daddy, can we get a puppy? He laughed, a real one this time. Keeps me on my toes. Elena pictured it, a cozy home filled with crayons and chaos, different from her sterile penthouse. Alex is more into gadgets, takes after me, I suppose. But he misses having a family unit. Maybe we could introduce them someday, Marcus ventured, his tone tentative. The suggestion hung there, bold and terrifying. Elena's mind raced. Was she ready for this? Her career demanded everything. Could she make room for more? Yet, looking into his eyes, she wanted to try. As guests began to depart, Marcus walked her to her car, the valet handing over the keys to her sleek Tesla. Can I see you again? He asked, his hand lingering on hers. Yes, she said without hesitation. Tomorrow, coffee? He grinned. It's a date. Driving home through the city streets, Elena replayed the night. The unexpected glance had sparked something profound, a connection that felt destined. But in the quiet of her car, doubts whispered, was Marcus truly over his past? And what about her own walls? The answers lay ahead in the unfolding chapters of their story. What if the bride wasn't just a symbol of lost love, but a ghost from a shared nightmare? As Elena and Marcus swayed under the chandelier's shimmering light in the opulent ballroom of the Grand Plaza Hotel, the soft strains of the orchestra enveloping them like a warm embrace, his grip on her waist tightened with an intensity that sent a subtle shiver through her. It was a moment suspended in time, the glittering crowd fading into a hazy backdrop, leaving only the two of them in their private world of newfound connection. The air was thick with the scent of roses and champagne. Laughter echoing distantly, but Elena felt the shift of tension in Marcus's touch that whispered of unspoken depths. You remind me of someone, he murmured, his voice low and rough, carrying the weight of years unspoken, his breath grazing her ear like a caress from the past. Elena's heart skipped, a mix of exhilaration and curiosity surging through her. In part 1, That fateful evening had begun with her bold whisper across the room. "Stop looking at the bride. Look at me," drawing her to this enigmatic single dad whose quiet sorrow mirrored her own guarded heart. Their initial dance had been a revelation, conversations unfolding like petals in bloom, sharing the raw edges of loss, the joys and burdens of raising children alone, and the tentative sparks of attraction that lit up the night. Marcus's stories of his daughter Lily, with her innocent questions and boundless energy, had tugged at Elena's maternal instincts, reminding her of her son Alex and the voids in her high-powered life as CEO of VonTech Innovations. But now, as the music crescendoed and they moved in perfect sync, Elena sensed the layers beneath his charm, the hidden currents that could either draw them closer or pull them under. They stepped away from the dance floor as the song ended, applause rippling around them like gentle waves. Marcus guided her to a secluded alcove framed by heavy velvet curtains, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, lights twinkling like distant promises. The cool glass reflected their silhouettes, her in the elegant emerald gown that hugged her curves, him in his slightly rumpled tuxedo that spoke of a life lived beyond pretense. Elena turned to him, her emerald eyes locking onto his stormy blue ones. "Who?" she asked softly, her voice laced with the same teasing lilt she'd used earlier, though now it masked a growing unease. "Who do I remind you of? An old flame? A movie star?" Marcus hesitated, his fingers absently tracing the rim of his champagne flute before setting it down on a nearby ledge. He glanced back toward the center of the room, where the bride, Lila, was now encircled by well-wishers, her white gown a beacon of joy. Lila's laughter carried over the hum of the crowd, pure and unburdened. A stark contrast to the shadow crossing Marcus's face. "It's not that simple," he said, his tone dropping to a confessional whisper. "Lila, she wasn't just an old friend or a reminder of what I lost with my wife. She was my everything once. College sweethearts dreaming of a future together. But she walked away, chose her ambitions over us. It broke me." Elena's brow furrowed, empathy flooding her as she placed a hand on his arm, feeling the taut muscles beneath. She knew that pain all too well, the sting of choices that prioritize career over connection. Her own divorce from David had been a battlefield of accusations. Him claiming her relentless drive for VonTech had left no room for love. "I understand," she replied, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "Ambition can be a cruel mistress, but why do I remind you of her? We're worlds apart. She's carefree, artistic, I'm all spreadsheets and strategy sessions." A faint, bittersweet smile tugged at Marcus's lips as he reached into his inner pocket, pulling out a slim leather wallet worn from years of use. He flipped it open with care, revealing a small, creased photo nestled beside his ID. In it, a young girl with cascading golden curls beamed at the camera, her eyes wide and sparkling eyes that were an exact match for Lila's, down to the flecks of hazel. "This is Lily," Marcus said, his voice cracking slightly. "My daughter, and Lila, she's her biological mother." The words landed like a thunderclap, reverberating through Elena's mind and stealing the air from her lungs. She stared at the photo, the innocent face of the child staring back, and suddenly the pieces of a long-forgotten puzzle snapped into place. Memories from her college days rushed in like a torrent, shared dorm rooms with Lila, endless nights debating life over ramen and red wine. Layla had confided in her about Marcus, the passionate artist who'd swept her off her feet, proposing with a handmade ring under a starry sky. But Layla had been torn, her dreams of traveling the world, pursuing a career in journalism, clashing with the stability Marcus offered. Elena, ever the pragmatist, had been the voice of reason. "Don't settle yet," she'd urged during one tearful conversation. "You're too young to clip your wings. Go explore, build your empire, love will wait if it's real." Lila had heeded her advice, ending things with Marcus and boarding a plane to Paris days later. Elena had moved on, assuming it was for the best, never knowing about the pregnancy that must have followed soon after. "Oh, Marcus," Elena breathed, her hand trembling as she touched the photo's edge. The ballroom's glamour now felt oppressive. The chandelier's light too harsh, exposing truths she'd unwittingly helped create. I knew Layla back then. We were roommates, best friends. I was the one who encouraged her to leave, to chase her dreams. I had no idea there was a child involved. Guilt crashed over her, heavy and unrelenting, mingling with the champagne's lingering fizz in her stomach. How many times had she prided herself on her no-nonsense advice, only to now see the devastation it wrought? Marcus's life raising Lily alone at first, then finding solace with Anna, only to lose her to cancer, had been shaped by that single conversation. Marcus's eyes widened in shock, the color draining from his face as realization dawned. You? Elena Vaughn? The Elena she talked about? The one who said love was a distraction from success? His words carried an edge of betrayal, though softened by the vulnerability in his gaze. He stepped back, leaning against the window for support, the city lights haloing him like a tragic figure. All these years I've wondered who planted that seed in her head. Layla was scared, but your words, they gave her the push. Tears welled in Elena's eyes, blurring the scene before her. She, the unbreakable CEO who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without flinching, now felt small and exposed. I was wrong, she admitted, her voice breaking. I thought I was helping her avoid my own mistakes, rushing into marriage, regretting it later. But I didn't see the full picture, if I could go back. The sentence trailed off, useless against the years of pain. Yet as she looked at Marcus, she saw not just accusation, but a flicker of understanding. A shared recognition that life was a tapestry of flawed decisions. He took a deep breath, pocketing the wallet and closing the distance between them. We all have regrets, he said gently, his hand finding hers, fingers intertwining with a warmth that defied the chill of revelation. Lila found out about the pregnancy right after she left. She called me from overseas, terrified. Said she wasn't ready to be a mom, that her life was just starting. She signed over full custody and I did what I had to. Raised Lily with love, met Anna, who became her mom in every way that mattered. But the what-ifs never fully go away. Elena squeezed his hand, drawing strength from the contact. And tonight? Seeing Leela marry someone else, it brought it all back? The question hung in the air, connecting their pasts in ways neither could have anticipated. Marcus nodded, his thumb brushing her knuckles in a soothing rhythm. Yeah, but then you showed up, with that whisper, pulling me out of the fog. It's like fate's way of saying it's time to let go. His eyes searched hers, intense and hopeful. You remind me that life can surprise you, that connection can heal. The weight of his words settled over Elena, a balm to her guilt. She leaned in, their foreheads touching in a moment of quiet intimacy. I want to make this right somehow. For you, for Lily, maybe even for Layla. The confession felt like shedding armor, revealing the woman beneath the executive facade, the one who yearned for family, for love that wasn't transactional. As the clock struck midnight, the wedding guests beginning to thin, Marcus suggested they step out to the balcony for fresh air. The night breeze carried the faint scent of jasmine from the gardens below, cooling their flushed faces. Stars glittered overhead, indifferent witnesses to human dramas. There, away from the crowd, Marcus shared more layers of his story. The sleepless nights after Leela's departure, learning to change diapers while freelancing as a graphic designer. The joy of Lily's first word, Dada, and the heartbreak of explaining Anna's illness to a toddler. She's my anchor, he said, voice thick with emotion. But I've been afraid to let anyone in, afraid of more loss. Elena opened up in turn, her voice steadying as she spoke of her rise in tech, the late nights coding in a cramped apartment, the thrill of her first big investment, the cost to her personal life. David left because I couldn't turn off the ambition. Alex pays the price now, shuttled between school and my occasional visits. I thought success would fill the voids, but it just highlights them. Tears slipped down her cheeks, unheeded. Meeting you tonight. It's woken something in me. A desire for more than PowerPoints and profits. Marcus wiped her tears with his thumb, his touch tender. Then let's explore that. No rush, no expectations, just us. He pulled her into an embrace, his arms strong and reassuring, and in that moment, the balcony felt like a sanctuary. Their lips met again, this time with a depth born of shared truths, a kiss that tasted of forgiveness, promise, and the sweet ache of possibility. Fireworks from a nearby celebration lit the sky, mirroring the explosions in her heart. Pulling back, Elena glanced inside, where Layla was bidding guests goodbye. What about her? Does she know Lily exists? That you're here? Marcus shook his head. Not yet. I've kept it quiet for Lily's sake. But seeing her so happy, maybe it's time for closure, for all of us. The idea sparked in Elena a chance for redemption. Let me help. We can approach her together, gently, turn this ghost into something healed. He smiled, genuine and warm. You'd do that? For you? Yes. As the night wound down, they exchanged numbers, planning to meet for coffee the next morning. Elena drove home through quiet streets, her mind a whirlwind of emotions, guilt, hope, attraction. The revelation had shaken her, but it also illuminated a path forward, one where past mistakes could forge stronger bonds. In the weeks that followed, their connection blossomed amid the chaos of daily life. Their first date was at a cozy cafe, sunlight filtering through windows as Marcus sketched her portrait on a napkin, capturing her smile with deft strokes. You're inspiring, he said, handing it over. Elena laughed, tucking it away like a treasure, sharing updates on Von Tech's latest AI breakthrough, a system for personalized learning that could benefit kids like Lily. Parenthood wove through their talks. Marcus described Lily's school plays, her fascination with stars. Elena confessed her plans to bring Alex home more often, perhaps enroll him locally. I want him to have stability, she said over dinner at Marcus's home. A warm space filled with art supplies and children's books. Lily shyly approached, offering a drawing of a family picnic. Is this for me? Elena asked, touched. The girl nodded, and in that instant, Elena envisioned a blended future, but the past lingered. Elena arranged a meeting with Lila, nerves jangling as they gathered at a neutral park bench. Layla's eyes filled with shock upon seeing Marcus, then softened at Lily's photo. I never stopped thinking about you, Layla admitted, tears streaming. I was young, selfish. Can you forgive me? Apologies flowed, bridges mended tentatively. Lila promised involvement, starting with letters to Lily, easing Marcus's long-held burdens. Through it all, Elena and Marcus grew closer walks hand in hand, stolen kisses, shared dreams. Elena scaled back work, surprising Alex with a weekend trip where he met Marcus and Lily. The kids bonded over games, laughter filling the air. Mom's happy, Alex whispered, warming her soul. One starry evening, echoing their balcony moment, Marcus knelt. We've turned pain into something beautiful. Marry me? Elena's yes was tearful, joyful, a culmination of whispers and truths. Their wedding, simple and intimate, celebrated redemption. As they danced, Elena whispered, Look at me. Marcus did, eyes full of love. The hidden truth had set them free, proving that from nightmares could rise the sweetest dreams.